Come, gather around the forge, my fellow smiths, for I have brought you gifts for you to engorge. For those who do not know me, I am the artsmith, and I have a double feature for thee. But first, if fresh designs are what you seek, please feel free to give my other videos a peek. I am creating a region, one filled with dinos, but I am far away from calling any of it final. 2 new evolution lines of POKÉMON, one mean, one cold. Now, let us get into the video before this bit gets old. Happy holidays, everyone! Shortly after I posted the Staticat video, my channel hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you, by the way. And I finally gained access to the community tab on my channel. And I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to learn what POKÉMON you guys would like to see next. I posted a couple of polls. The first one asked what type of Pokemon I should make next out of the remaining types I have yet to work with. A majority of you voted for Poison, Rock, and Dark. This immediately started filling my head with ideas, and I went ahead and sketched out my ideas for these 3 types. These were a mountain-inspired Brachiosaurus, a pterodactyl line based on plague doctors, and a Spinosaurus based on pirates. I also threw in a potential ghost type for the fun of it. You guys overwhelmingly voted for the pirate Spinosaurus. It's a really good thing Game Freak hasn't made a Spinosaurus Pokemon yet. Nope, none at all. Real talk though, I delayed this video until the new games came out to make sure I wasn't making something that already existed. And let me tell you, when I got this frigid little guy, I was so excited. Finally, a Spinosaurus Pokemon, and it's an Ice Dragon type? This final evolution is gonna look so cool. Oh no. It's just Godzilla. Now let me show you a real Spinosaurus Pokemon. Believe it or not, I originally started designing this line back in July, but I just couldn't really find a foothold with the concept and design. I knew I wanted to make it a water type to allude to the recent hypothesis about the Spinosaurus being a lot more aquatic than we originally thought. I played around with all sorts of ideas. I made the fin into a blade, then I made it actual sails from a sailboat, and I even toyed around with making the first stage look like an inflatable pool raft. Eventually, I went back to the sailboat idea, and based this first form off of a Dimetrodon. I know it's several 100 million years older than the Spinosaurus, but come on, you knew what this was coming. They're both nasty guys with sails on their backs. I named this little menace Klepunk, combining the words kleptomaniac and punk. Also, another name for a Dimetrodon coined in Texas is Klepsodrops. It all kind of just fell together. I find it very fun to say. It starts out as a little thief to allude to the pirate captain it will inevitably become. I styled its body after a pirate ship, from the large sail to the underbelly to the barnacles on its back. Or those little cannons. I also took this as an opportunity to experiment with how I render my POKÉMON. I went with a more painterly look for this most recent batch. I personally thought that the plain old cell shading made my designs look flat, and I really like this more painterly approach. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you like this new style of shading or the old style? Klepunk, the beachside thief Pokemon. Patrolling coastal beaches, wild Klepunk prey on tourists that drift too far from their belongings. It digs through abandoned bags for shiny metallic trinkets and brings them back to their pack leader. It scares easily. However, the way to this Pokemon's heart is rather simple. If a trainer offers it a small treasure, it will happily join them in hopes to acquire more on their journey. At this point in the design process, I already knew what the first and final forms of this Pokemon would look like. I just needed to bridge the gap. I decided to lean more into the Dimetrodon for this evolution, before it becomes the full-fledged Spinosaurus. It gains another fin to make it look even more like a ship. I also wanted to lean further into the pirate motif and gave it a bandana-like shape over its face, and even gave it something that resembles an eye patch. To be honest, I was really worried about the reception of this line of Pokemon out of fear that people would say they didn't look enough like Pokemon, and that by trying to make them look like a mean dark type, I made them look too much like a Digimon. But as I mulled it over, I decided to hell with the comments like that. I love Digimon. It's my constant worry of not adhering to the almighty Pokemon style that takes me so long to put out these videos. And I'm a lot quicker and have a lot more fun with the design process when I make a little monster that I would have loved to see as a kid. and I hope that you just so happen to love them too. Plus, I mean, come on, Tinkaton exists now. She opened the Digimon floodgates. I'm not holding back anymore. I named this guy Krimineer, combining criminal and buccaneer. And yeah, those barnacles are actually cannons. I just think it'd be such a cool visual to see it blast someone with them from the side like how a pirate ship would. Krimineer, the coastal corsair Pokemon. Growing tired of giving their hard-earned treasures to their pack leader, wild Krimineer set out on their own to amass a great fortune for themselves. More daring than it used to be, this Pokemon journeys across land and sea to steal from unsuspecting Pokemon, and even attempt to raid rival packs' treasure troves. It is incredibly stubborn and unruly in battle, convinced that it knows better than its trainer. Like its first form, it took me a few attempts to figure out how I wanted to execute this design. It gains a couple more sails, pirate hooks for claws, and that distinctive crocodilian skull. I wanted this Spino to be able to walk on all four legs as well as just its hind legs, like how it was classically portrayed. Besides, land isn't particularly its strong suit. When researching dark types, I found that most dual types have their dual typing throughout all of their evolutions, and wanted to do the same with this line. They're all dark water types. I'll probably include this method of typing with my upcoming Pokemon as well. I named this Pirate King Korsail, combining Corsair and, well, sail. Short and sweet. I'm very happy with how it turned out. It's come a long way since its initial sketch in the poll. For the shinies, I leaned into that classic red and black look of a pirate, and turned its silver parts into gold. After seeing the amazing textures in Scarlet and Violet, can you imagine how awesome it would be to see a shiny Korsail with that gold texture from the game? Korsail, the dreaded pirate Pokemon. After spending time on its own and amassing a vast fortune, a wild Korsail's adventures attract Klepunks to join its crew. Now with others to do its work for them, this Pokemon rarely leaves its horde and closely guards it. Trained Korsail often regard their team as their crew and their trainer as their treasure. So that was my 3-stage Dark-type Pokemon. But we're not done yet. I've got another prehistoric mon to fill your stockings. I wanted to include something that fit in with the holiday season and decided to make an Ice-type version of an Irish elk. An ancient elk with massive antlers. It's definitely very different from the Klepunk line. Where that one was dark and mean, this one is cute and, well, frozen. Let's get into it. I decided to take a crack at the few unused combinations we haven't seen in a Pokemon game yet. Normal and Ice seemed like a good fit for this one. And I know what you're thinking, don't we have enough deer? And to that I say, sure. But we don't have any elk, and the closest thing to a reindeer we have is a butt face. I wanted to give the Cervidae family my own take. Plus hey, it fits with the modern day Pokemon I've designed as well as the prehistoric ones. When I set out to make an adorable fawn Pokemon, I couldn't get the image of Bambi stumbling around on the ice out of my head. So I gave it frozen over legs to lean into the idea that this Pokemon is always unsteady. I also wanted to turn the spots on a fawn's coat into actual snowballs. And lastly, I pulled in inspiration from amputees, treating these ice-like coverings as prosthetics. I named this one Fawmble, combining fawn and Fumble. Another very fun name to say. And of course, I gave it shiny red nose. Fawmble, the brittle Pokemon. A wild Fawmble has incredibly fragile legs, so it covers them in a thick layer of ice. However, this adaptation leaves this Pokemon with slippery appendages that cause it to frequently take a tumble. Because of this, it is vulnerable to predation. It relies on the protection of its parents or trainer to keep itself safe. When I was thinking of how to incorporate the Irish elk's absolutely massive antlers into a Pokemon design, it didn't take me long to picture giant antlers made out of ice in the shape of snowflakes. I imagine this Fakemon as being bigger than all of the other deer Pokemon that came before it, to really sell that it is prehistoric. I named this elegant giant Crystelk, combining crystal and elk. I figured that this would be the natural prey of Voltundra from my last video. It only seemed fitting to pair two Ice Age animals together like this. Now, Wild Fawmble might be incredibly clumsy and easy to catch, but Crystelk have mastered their slippery limbs and are nearly impossible to catch across frozen lakes. They're essentially giant ice skaters. But yeah, a relatively simple design overall, but that's normal types for you. I don't know about you, but I really like this guy. Oh, and partway through making this, I tried to make differences between the male and female variants of this POKÉMON, but ultimately decided against it. The antlers are made out of ice, so I figured either gender could form them. Crystelk, the Ice Dancer Pokémon. Mastering the sleekness of the icy casings on its limbs, Crystelk moves with a mixture of elegance and power. It moves across frozen terrain at breakneck speeds as it charges with its crystalline antlers. This Pokémon sheds its melting antlers upon summertime and forms them again during the winter. When attracting a mate, this Pokémon performs a beautiful ice ballet to impress them. Only the luckiest of trainers may catch a glimpse of this exclusive show. So there you have it, my original Dark type plus another Ice type to fill out the decks. We have a little punk that serves a big boss, who eventually strikes out on his own to eventually become a pirate king itself. And we also have a fragile little fawn that grows into its prosthetic limbs and completely masters them. What do you think? Would you add Klepunk or Fawmble to your team? I'm glad to get back to the prehistoric designs, but still include some more modern ones as well. I'll be sure to post a poll so you guys can vote on what you want to see next. Anyway, recommend any dinosaurs or other extinct creatures you would like to see. And if you want, throw in some type combos you think would be cool too. Make sure to go watch my other POKÉMON videos if you haven't yet. This has been the Artsmith, and thank you for coming to the Forge. Happy holidays!